We have our leader stats board, and it shows the number of oomphs. But if you remember from the original game, what we have instead of the leaderboard is a set of screen GUIs, and there's going to be one screen GUI right here that shows the number of oomphs, or the number of deaths, and it's going to show this number here on it. So in order to get that going, there has to be some code that goes on in the background, but the first step would be to add the screen GUI. So let's go ahead and stop this game, go into the starter GUI. We already have a screen GUI here that's for the like the beginning scene, the first scene when you first start. It says click here to start, and this one has the rules. So why don't we go ahead and just duplicate this one, and we'll just make some modifications. We're going to delete the text button. Let's get rid of that. On the text label, we're going to make some adjustments. So the anchor point here, instead of being 0.5.5, it's going to be 0, 0. And then we want the size to be smaller. Over here on the position, we're going to change it to be 1, comma. Let's do maybe, yeah, let's do 1, 0 for now. And then right here, we're also going to do 1, 0. And then over here on the size, let's turn down the size so we can get it to be visible on the screen. And right over here, we could put maybe -200. And over here, we could put -150. So now we have this little screen GUI box, but we can change the size of it, right? So we want it to be about this big. Because we have oomphs here, semicolon, and this is going to be how many times they have like touched a red block. So it has to have enough space in order to contain all of those numbers. So maybe that's a good amount of screen space that we can use. And now that we got the size correct, we got to go back and readjust the position. Okay, so the first value in position is going to be 1. The second value is going to be this number flipped on the sign, so it's going to be -429. -429. Okay, on this other side, it's going to be 1 as well. And then let's do the bigger negative number, the higher up it's going to go. So if I want it right about here, that's a good space, because on the bottom I'm going to put the leaderboard, the person who finished the game with the least amount of deaths. So we need to leave some space for that. So maybe we can make this 170, and that looks pretty good. If we scroll up, we're going to change the background color to be black. So make sure you change that to be black, and the transparency to be 0.3. And you might be wondering, why don't we see it? And we don't see it because we copied this screen GUI, and this screen GUI's enabled is false. Okay, so we could turn on enabled, and we could see it. Okay, now we need to adjust the text. So we're going to scroll down a bit, and Gotham Black looks good. This congratulations is going to turn into oomphs, and a 0 is what it's going to start out with. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like, and I think that looks pretty good. One thing that I told you that I didn't mention to you is that we set the border size to be 10 pixels. So there's a 10 pixel white line around this box, which means over here on the position, we're going to need to add 10 pixels to this 429. So I'm going to change this to not -429, but -439. So I hit enter, and now it leaves space for that border on the right side. Okay. So now we have our oomphs, and that looks good. The next step would be to, let me go ahead and test this. The next step would be to run the game with the oomphs reflecting the leader stats board. Okay, and then once we have that, so that it says 2 here, then we're gonna erase this leader stats board and get rid of it. So we'll be solely dependent on this screen GUI to show us how many deaths we have, or how many oomphs, and what our score is in the game.